230 BC, a Qin army marched out of a Hangu pass. No declaration of war, no ultimatum, no warning. Their target was a kingdom that had existed for 5 centuries. Its name was Han. 5 days later, Han was done, erased from the map. The other kingdoms watched in silence. They knew they were next. But to the north, one man was waiting. He belonged to a kingdom that had fought Qin for a century, a kingdom called Zhao. And on its northern frontier stood a commander who seemed to do nothing. He waited. He refused to fight. Everyone thought he was weak. Qin did not know his name yet, but soon they would. Because this man would become the first person to make Qin's unstoppable army feel something it had never felt before: fear. Han was the smallest of 7 kingdoms. Its land was limited, its population was smaller than its rivals, and it stood directly in Qin's pass east. For centuries, Han survived between stronger neighbors. But by 230 BC, survival was no longer enough. Qin armies enter Han territory. There was no legendary last stand, no famous general, no final battle remembered by history. Han simply collapsed. A kingdom that had existed for 5 centuries disappeared almost overnight. The historical record is almost unbelievable short. 40 words. That is all history tells us about Han's fall. 500 years of kings, 500 years of armies, 500 years of ambition, gone. In 40 words. The other kingdoms were not watching a war. They were watching an execution. And Qin learned a dangerous lesson. Every kingdom could fall. They believed Zhao would be no different. They were wrong. Zhao was different. For a century, Zhao had lived in Qin's shadow. Its southern border had seen endless warfare. Its soldiers had fought some of the fiercest battles of the age. But Zhao's greatest enemy was not only Qin. To the north were the Shunnu, fast cavalry warriors who attacked suddenly and disappeared before armies could catch them. Most generals tried to fight harder. One commander chose another path. His name was Li Mu, and he understood something most generals never learned. Sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy is to make them believe you cannot. Stationed on Zhao's northern frontier, Li Mu ordered his army to stay behind the defenses. No pursuit, no reckless battles, no chasing the Shunnu across the steppe. His soldiers became frustrated. They thought the commander had lost his courage. The Shunnu became confident. They thought Zhao had become weak. But waiting had a price. Every day, Li Mu refused to fight. His own soldiers questioned him. Every day, the enemy grew stronger in their own confidence. That was exactly what Li Mu needed. Behind the walls, Zhao's soldiers trained. His officers studied the enemy. His army waited. Every time the Shunnu attacked, they saw the same thing: a commander who refused to fight. Until one day, they stopped respecting him. The Shunnu launched a major attack. Their army moved deep into Zhao territory. They expected another easy victory. Instead, Li Mu opened the trap. A small Zhao force attacked, then retreated. The Xiongnu chased. The cavalry moved faster. Their formation stretched thinner. Then the real Zhao army appeared. From the sides, from behind. The battlefield that looked like a victory became a disaster. The Xiongnu army was surrounded. The greatest advantage, speed, became useless. Over 100,000 Xiongnu horsemen were slaughtered. The main force annihilated. The survivors fled north. For more than a decade, they did not dare come near Zhao's borders again. Li Mu had defeated the greatest cavalry threat of the north, not by attacking first, not by having more soldiers, by waiting until the enemy made the mistake he wanted. The man everyone thought was afraid had controlled the battle from the beginning. For Qin, Han's destruction proved everything they believed. Kingdoms could be defeated, armies could be broken, resistance could be erased. So, Qin turned north toward Zhao. In 234 BC, Qin sent one of its most aggressive generals, Wang Yi, against Zhao. The Qin army broke through Zhao defenses and won a devastating victory at Wuchang. Around 100,000 Zhao soldiers were killed. The kingdom was shaken. Many believed the end had arrived. But Zhao still had one weapon left: Li Mu. The commander from the northern frontier was recalled. In 233 BC, Qin launched another attack. Li Mu faced the full force of Qin's military machine, but he did not fight the way Qin expected. He did not meet their army head-on. Instead, he looked for the thing every army depended on: supply. Thousands of soldiers needed thousands of supplies: food, weapons, reinforcements. Li Mu attacked the supply lines. Slowly, the chain advance weakened. The army that had erased Han from the map could no longer move freely. When Qin was finally exhausted, Li Mu moved. The Qing army was routed. Tens of thousands of Qin soldiers never made it home. For every Zhao soldier killed at Wuchang, Li Mu had now taken repayment in blood. For the first time in Ying Zheng's reign, Qin had met an enemy it could not overwhelm, a kingdom it could not break, a commander it could not defeat. Li Mu became more than a general. He became a war. Behind that war stood Zhao. The king of Zhao rewarded him with the highest military honor, Lord Wu En, a title once held by a Qin general, Bai Ti. Ying Zheng did not see irony. He saw a problem. For 5 years, Qin tried everything: more troops, different commanders, new strategies. Nothing worked. From 233 to 229 BC, Li Mu held the line. The greatest army in China had found the one thing it could not defeat: a man who refused to give it the battle it wanted. For 5 years, Li Mu stood between Qin and victory. Qin did not need to defeat Zhao's army. It needed to remove Li Mu. But Li Mu could not be killed on the battlefield. So Qin turned to the weapon it had used to conquer half of China. Not the sword, but the whisper. not the army, but the spy. Qin did not just fight wars, it bought traitors. And in the court of Zhao, it found Guo Kai. Guo Kai was not just any official. He was the king's most trusted advisor, a man who had been at the king's side since childhood. The king listened to him when he ignored everyone else. Guo Kai had power, and Qin knew that a well-placed rumor in his mouth was deadlier than 100,000 soldiers at Zhao's gates. In 229 BC, as Qin began another campaign, that rumor began to spread. Li Mu was planning to betray Zhao. He was preparing to surrender to Qin. To anyone who knew Li Mu, the accusation was impossible. This was the man who had saved Zhao again and again. But rumors do not need to be true. They only need the right person to believe them. King Qin of Zhao feared powerful generals. Guo Kai fed that fear. Slowly, the king began to believe that Zhao's greatest defender was actually a threat. The order came. Li Mu was removed from command. He refused. He knew what would happen without him. He was right, but the king saw only disobedience. The man who had saved Zhao was accused of betraying it. Li Mu was captured and executed. No battlefield, no enemy sword, no final duel. The man who defeated the Xiongnu, the man who stopped Qin, the man who stood against the greatest army China had ever seen, killed not by an enemy sword, but by a whisper. When Ying Zheng heard the news, he did not celebrate. He studied it. The greatest danger to a kingdom was not always an enemy outside its walls. Sometimes it was the fear inside them. 3 months later, Qin attacked. Without Li Mu, Zhao was no longer the same kingdom. The army that had resisted Qin for years was now led by weaker commanders. Qin's army returned. This time, there was no Li Mu, no war. No one left who could stop Qin. The gates of Handan crushed. The city that had resisted Qin for a century fell. Qin banners rose above the walls. Zhao was gone. For the people of Zhao, the fall of Handan was not just the end of a kingdom. It was the end of a world they had known for generations. The state that had fought Qin for 100 years disappeared in a single campaign. Even after Handan fell, remnants of Zhao resisted, but the kingdom was dead. Yet, Zhao had left something behind, not on the map. Inside Ying Zheng, Handan had taught him a lesson no victory ever could. A kingdom could survive the strongest army in the world and still collapse from within. And in Yan, another kingdom of 7 warring states, a prince was watching. A prince who had known Ying Zheng as a child. A prince who understood what the king of Qin had become. His name was Prince Dan, and he had one final plan. Not an army, not a battlefield. A single man, a single blade. A chance to kill the king who could not be stopped. This is Mr. Su. Our next episode, The Assassin's Dagger.